It's great to have back on the program today Joe Walsh, former U.S. Representative from Illinois, former presidential candidate, host of the podcast White Flag with Joe Walsh. Always great to have you on. I appreciate it.
David, always good to be with you. I'm a huge fan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Okay, let's just jump right into the some of the meat here. 2022, for historical reasons, should have been great for Republicans. Red wave predicted by some, red wave that ended with Democrats gaining a seat, although now they kind of lost it because of Kirsten Sinema, but it seems she'll still, I guess, caucus with Democrats. It's still sort of shaking out. Ronna McDaniel was recently asked on Fox News how much of what happened was because of Donald Trump, and she said she doesn't really want to talk about that. To what degree do you think what happened is because of Donald Trump?
I think pretty much the whole thing was because of Donald Trump. Americans rejected all these crazy, you know what, crazy election denying candidates. Where did all these election denying, crazy, anti-democracy candidates come from? Trump. Trump pushed them. They came from his stable. They are him. And I give Biden a lot of credit because he stuck to this defending democracy thing. When a lot of smart Democratic advisors said, come on, President Biden, move off of that, focus on inflation and gas. But he stuck with it. I think a lot of Americans generally said, we do want to defend democracy.
They're assuming that that's true. And again, when you look at split tickets, like when you look at Georgia, for example, and you see Brian Kemp easily won, and then Herschel Walker lost. I mean, not by much, but he did lose. But the gap between Walker and Kemp was significant. It does suggest that Republican voters were discerning in terms of which Republicans they were willing to vote for. Once we look at that, we have a new poll that finds almost 2/3 of Republicans, even if they like Trump policy, they don't want him to be the nominee in 2024. There are increasingly analyses that say Trump won't even make it to the first primaries. What do you think?
I'd say two things, David. He's the king of this party. He right now remains the cult leader. My former party is a cult. So do not write him off at all. But what I will say is this. I'm in a weird spot, right? Because I come from the mega cult. I still engage with the mega cult every day. And I will say two things about Republican base voters that I talk to every day. They all want Trumpism. They all want that. And we all know what that is. And increasingly, they're concerned and worried that maybe Trump is no longer the voice of that. Here's the important point, David, that you know, not because they think there's anything wrong with Trump. They just don't think he can win. So will this be permanent? I don't know. And the other thing I'd say, David, is who's going to slay the king? Who's going to slay him?
Well, I mean, it is interesting that DeSantis, without having even announced, in some polls, is easily beating a former president of the United States. That it's a signal that maybe DeSantis can do it. But, you know, when I think about, imagine DeSantis says I'm running and a national campaign starts, I don't know. I mean, can DeSantis actually handle that? I'm not sure.
I know DeSantis. I know him pretty well in the pre-Trump days. Look, he's got zero charisma. He's not good on his feet.
Yeah.
He's very thin-skinned. And most Republicans around the country really don't know who he is. He is a marker right now. He's a default spot for all these Trump voters who want Trumpism and they don't know where else to go. I tend to believe that once he's under a national spotlight, I don't think he'll do well.
Yeah, and I've read a number of pieces that say brilliant guy, much more competent than Trump, but sort of like constitutionally, he may not really have what it takes to actually face the national campaign with the nicknames and but at the same time, it is a different Trump. I mean, if you just look at Trump's something, I don't know what's going on with Trump, but when you look at video from 6 years ago, from 2015, 2016, his facility with language and the insults and the quips and whatever, he does seem diminished at this point to some degree. Would you agree?
I don't know, but What I do know, David, is where's he been? I get that he had to announce a month ago, because if he didn't announce, he'd look like, a loser. So he had to come out
Yeah.
thinking that the midterms would be a big victory for him. But I got to tell you something, David. Every single day, I hear Republican voters tell me every day, hey, Joe, shut up. Twitter did steal the 2020 election. I told you it was rigged. Now, this is a huge issue, an animating issue for Republican voters. It's a layup for Trump. And I don't know why Donald Trump has not been more active. I don't know why he's not on Twitter. I don't know why he's not holding a rally somewhere right now screaming that Twitter stole the 2020 election.
Yeah. It's strange. A report, I don't remember if it was Vanity Fair or which one, that Trump has barely left his house since making the announcement. He did an interview with OAN yesterday where he's mentioning, I guess, some rallies that maybe are planned, but I don't know how much momentum is going to be behind those at this point. Is there still a standard bearer right now in the Republican Party that is the more kind of prototypical conservative constitutionalist small government Republican? Like, is it like Mitt Romney maybe? Is there anyone left right now?
No.
Huh.
David, there's no standard bearer for that wing of the party, because I don't believe that wing of the party is a real wing anymore. The standard bearer for the party is still Trump until somebody knocks him down. And here's what I think about all the time, David. I left the party 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
One of Trump's most outspoken critics. I'm still a crazy Tea Party conservative. If I ran in a Republican primary next year, I wouldn't have a shot, because I oppose Trump. Liz Cheney could never win in this party. Adam Kinzinger could never win. So if not Trump, the party is either you love Donald Trump or you'll be just like and better than Trump. I don't see room for any other Republican for a while.
It does seem, though, that in the right district, you would absolutely have a shot, doesn't it? I mean, if in a less Trumpy district, I don't know.
In a Republican primary?
In a Republican primary? Well, I mean, listen, I guess it depends to what degree the Trump MAGA association continues to diminish in importance, I guess. I guess we don't know.
I would, David Peck, I would probably have better luck running as a very conservative Democrat.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe so. What do you expect now in these next 2 years? Because, of course, Democrats will have the majority in the Senate, depending on what happens with Kyrsten Sinema. It'll be 50-50 or it'll be 51-49. But either way, it's a majority to get things done that require a simple majority. Probably can't get much done that requires 60 votes. Over in the House, Republicans taking control, clearly an interest in investigating Hunter Biden, maybe even Hillary's emails, maybe Whitewater. We don't know how far back they're going to go. What exactly is going to happen legislatively, if anything at all?
Nothing.
Right.
That for certain, David, we know that nothing legislatively is going to happen. My former colleagues in the House have made it clear, and they're not going to veer off of this, that they're going to investigate every Democrat that they can investigate, and they may try to impeach a few Democrats. Kevin McCarthy, I still believe, will be Speaker. But David, he's sold every inch of his body. And I know a lot of people say this. I said this a long time ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene will be the Speaker in reality.
Really?
Because she'll be squeezing McCarthy so hard for 2 years. It's going to be her. And the other thing we know these next 2 years are going to be like is it's going to be Trump craziness. I think he's going to be indicted. I think he may be indicted a couple times. And then what do Republican Party voters do? Do they rally around him? Do they say that's it? I don't know.
When it comes to the Hunter Biden stuff, I haven't heard you weigh in on it. My view has been, I don't really care about Hunter Biden in the sense that he has nothing to do with the administration. If he did commit some crime and you can prove it, investigate, indict, what I just don't care. It's like I wasn't out there defending Anthony Weiner, and I don't really care. The problem I have is it's being used to attack Joe Biden in a way that seems disconnected from the facts that we have right now. What is your sense of the entire Hunter Biden situation?
It's it's David, you nailed it. It's purely political. I mean, I've had some Republicans tell me privately that they have to go after Hunter Biden because the base is demanding it. Look, let's be real. I think you and I are consistent on this. It pisses me off to no end when people use their service or their family service in government to enrich themselves. Jared Kushner did that. Hunter Biden did that with his dad for years. That's not his dad. That's him. The Justice Department will decide what they want to do with him. But this is just, David, this is red meat for the base, and they have to throw some of this stuff at them for these 2 years.
Do you think they will go as far in the House as to actually try to impeach Joe Biden?
No, I don't. There are some in the caucus who want to, but I think generally, as McCarthy is trying to become speaker, he's cutting deals with everybody. I believe that's probably one promise he couldn't make.
As you mentioned, even though you've left the Republican Party and you're anti-Trump, you were one of the prominent voices in the Tea Party movement back in 2010-ish, and at the time quite a strong opponent of then President Barack Obama's. In retrospect, Obama wasn't really too bad, right? Even by your standards.
David, when I look back, sometimes I want to slap myself upside the head because you're right. Obama wasn't a crazy leftist. Being in Congress then, and the talking points were always, we had to call him a socialist and all of the rest.
Yeah.
And I engaged in too much of that. But oh my God, no, not at all. And I've obviously over the years gained much respect for Barack Obama, even if I still genuinely disagree with him on most policy issues.
To talk about a policy issue, because last time we did this and it was interesting. On taxes, right? So top federal tax rate right now is 37%. And there's the idea of maybe it would go a little higher if Joe Biden got his way, but we're talking about a couple points. And then some say, well, we should have a higher bracket that starts higher with an even higher tax rate. What do you think about the level of federal taxation in the U.S. right now? Like, what would, if it was just up to you, how would you organize tax brackets?
If I were king of the world, David,
Yeah.
I'd get rid of our complicated tax code. My innate default is always to let every American keep more of the money they make. I'd advocate and push some sort of flat tax, one single rate for everybody. I'd get low income people off of it, but everybody else would pay the straight 25, 26% of what you make and be done with all these complications and all these wealthy people who can hire all these accountants and lawyers to end up paying nothing.
Well, so that's the critical question when people bring up a flat tax, which is, okay, you deal with folks at the lower end by saying it's actually zero up until a certain point. But then the first question becomes, is there a single dollar number at which it goes from 0 to 26? Because then that's the first thing people would game, right? To try to stay right below that, because 0 to 26 is a big difference.
So one way around that is to just incrementally raise it to a certain point.
So it's no longer flat, is it?
Then it's no longer flat, but it tops off at a rate. But I hear that concern, and that's a concern I've always had. I'm less concerned about that than the multitude of rates that create the multitude of complication that people like you and I just can't take advantage of.
So then the critical part really is at the top, because effective, these billionaires aren't paying 26% right now.
They're not right now.
If you do a flat tax that phases in at the bottom from 0, so it's already kind of progressive. Then what do you do at the top to prevent getting deductions and interest carry forwards and all these things? How do you really make a billionaire pay 26% effective? Because for most of them, that's an increase in what they pay.
Well, so, and again, we're talking pie in the sky dream stuff.
Of course.
Because remember, I'm king of the world.
Yes.
If I put that number in there, that flat rate of 26, 27, 28%,
yep,
I would get rid of every deduction, every exemption, everything on the books. I'd remove all of it. in my dream world.
What about wages versus capital gains? That's another way, right? Which is, well, sure, it's 26% flat, but I can pay much less depending on what it is by not taking a salary, as many of these guys don't. What do you do about that?
I've always this is such great stuff, David. Damn it! And I miss this stuff because we don't do this. I'd get rid of the capital gains tax.
Just make it earned same as income.
Yeah, yeah. Don't throw anything at me. I'd probably just count it as straight income, and I'd get rid of the capital. I'd get rid of every exception, and I would count everything as income.
What's crazy about this plan is it's not very right wing, really. I mean, like, as we talk through it, you're basically saying tax capital gains as income, which increases the amount rich people pay. Take away the loopholes and the deductions, which if you can get the very rich to pay an effective rate of 26, they're actually paying more, and just make it progressive from 0 up to that 26 at the bottom. It's probably something a lot of left wingers would get behind. I mean, it doesn't sound bad to me.
Would it, in your mind, David, would it end up bringing in more revenue than what we're bringing in now?
I don't know, but it sounds like it might.
It might.
Yeah.
It actually, that's the weird, funny thing is it actually might.
Yeah. Policy, folks. We've been speaking.
But by the way, David, neither political party is incentivized to go down that road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh, you can hear him on White Flag with Joe Walsh. Always great having you on.
Keep doing your thing, David. Thank you, man.